Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Little Fella Sports Podcast. And as part of our 8 series preview in terms of the IPL teams, we've got obviously the Mumbai Indians, who would turn out to be last season's winners, of course. We're previewing them last in terms of the order of our previews, but obviously we've got the champions of last season, the champions of the last 2 seasons, in fact. And to discuss about the Mumbai Indians, I've obviously got a very new guest who's making his debut on the Little Fella Sports Podcast. Mumbai Indians fan, funnily enough, a fellow Manchester United fan as well. So I like to welcome Abhinav on the show. So first things first, Abhinav, welcome to the Little Fella Sports Podcast. It's an
Uh,
absolute pleasure having you on.
it's actually an honor for me to be here, Anirudh, and talking to a fellow United fan. I mean that aside, and I've always been a fan of your of the Little Fella Sports podcast. I mean, I've heard and watched so many of your videos and all, and it's for me it's a privilege to be here because I think you're such quality content. I mean, I for me it's always a privilege to always try out something new, and with your podcast, hopefully this is a good one.
Thank you so much, Abhinav. Such kind words. So we'll get into the Mumbai Indians straight away. So looking back at IPL 2020, I mean, what can you say? You could say that they pretty much carried off where they left off in 2019, despite the fact that there was the pandemic, despite the fact that there was no cricket for the past 7-8 months when the IPL 2020 started. Mumbai Indians look like they played cricket definitely during the lockdown. I have severe doubts the way they were playing. I'm pretty sure the 11 cricketers who turned up for Mumbai Indians definitely were playing in lockdown because, except for probably Rohit Sharma. But then, to be honest, how well Mumbai Indians played, right? I mean, what can you say about? I mean, as a fan, of course, first, I mean, looking at your opinions, what were your expectations heading into 2020 first? And obviously, we all know what happened in the end. But heading into 2020, with the uncertainty of the pandemic, how it could potentially affect teams, and looking at some of your buys back then, someone like Trent Bolt, who was obviously played in from the Delhi Capitals. What were your expectations heading into 2020? And considering that you won the title, I can't ask you how happy you were by the performances, but yeah, you can take it over now.
I remember I had been talking to a few of my friends, and I had told them that I, as a fan, I would be more than happy if they could make the playoff, make it to the playoff, because it's we've all known what the even year curse is about with the Mumbai Indians. I mean, it's been that unfortunate thing that even years Mumbai Indians never perform, and plus we did not have somebody like Lasith Malinga. I mean, his withdrawal, I think, the fact that he said he could not turn up due to personal reasons. I mean, I felt that it was a big hit for the side, because I think Malinga is basically Mumbai's identity. A lot of what Mumbai's successes had been in the past, in their 5 title-winning seasons. Malinga had been a critical player for Mumbai in all those 5 editions. And even in the seasons they did not. They weren't in the finals. Malinga was turning out quality performances for them. So I think it is a big ask, and and they did not have a lot of spinners on them. I mean, not too many spinners. I mean, with the exception of Krunal Pandya, who's an all-rounder, and Anukul Roy is still untested on played just one IPL game, and has some domestic experience. Jayant Yadav is not exact. Hasn't played a lot of IPL and even international cricket, but a relatively battle-hardened veteran of the domestic game. Rahul Chahar played a game for India, wasn't and also, I mean, and they had a youngster like Prince Balwant Rai Singh, whom a lot of us had never heard about, and I'd say that it wouldn't be Mumbai Indians without giving somebody like an unknown rookie like him a shot in the playing 11. But this they brought in James Pattinson, and I think that was underratedly a very smart signing that they made to replace Malinga with, because he was able to complement the Bumrah Bolt pair very, very well. I mean, Bolt also traded in from Delhi, and Mumbai have historically been a team that has always been much more active in the trading window in the big year auctions. They've always tried to plug in those holes with trades, and Trent Bolt was a fabulous acquisition for them, because he gave them that left arm sweet pacer that Mumbai have always utilized so well in all their title winning editions. So I think it is a good sign for them to get in Trent Bolt. And what to say about the youngsters that kept up? Surya Kumar Yadav, Ishan Kishan. I mean, the way they just came out and they just made that stage their own. I mean, the display of chutzpah and bravery from Ishan Kishan in that game against RCB, where he got that 99 and somehow almost took Mumbai to a finish line, or Surya Kumar Yadav dealing Yuzvendra Chahal, dealing so beautifully with Yuzvendra Chahal and Virat Kohli in the return fixture, and the sight of him scooping Jofra Archer for a six after being pinned on the head. And their performances right through, I think that was so good to see. I mean, so vibrant to see, and Kyron Pollard once again making his presence known in the big games, whenever, be it with the bat or with the ball, whenever he was and some great fielding efforts like he always does in every single edition. He has that one catch that just makes you wonder how is this man doing all that. So I mean, a great addition. I think after them winning the title, I mean, I felt like okay. I mean, it just felt okay. I mean,
It
is
was
it
just too
normal service
easy,
once
I think.
again?
In the end, it
It,
was. It seemed very easy. Even the celebrations weren't really over the top when it came to the players.
exactly.
It almost felt like second nature. I mean, you won 5 titles. I can't really blame Mumbai Indians fans or the players to feel like, oh, we feel like we've done this before, right? It's not too hard. It's not too big a deal as well. So I completely agree in terms of their performances. As you mentioned, some of the names. Ishan Kishan was obviously the standout in terms of being the bright new star who emerged. He had a couple of seasons before that where he got a few opportunities but did not get an extended run. But last season he wasn't in the initial 11. He barged into
Yes.
the 11 and ensured that now what he's probably part of the India squad as well. So what an
Yes.
incredible turnaround for him. And as you mentioned, the likes of Trent Bolt, James Pattinson in crucial moments of the season complemented obviously the world's best bowler, arguably Jasprit Bumrah, very beautifully. And overall, it was a very, very complete performance for Mumbai Indians, and there's pretty much nothing to complain. But obviously, heading into the auction this season, there were a couple of spots Mumbai Indians were looking to fill, namely probably the second spinner or the third spinner spot behind Rahul Chahar, because there's a little bit of, you could say in terms of numbers, you have only Chahar and Jayant. The others, they've obviously gone and gotten Piyush Chawla, who is an experienced veteran. I mean, he's played IPL for I think pretty much every single edition so far. So, and apart from that, they've also gotten they've got Nathan Coulter-Nile back, who was released at the end of last season, but they've got him back, and they've gotten the exciting Adam Milne as well. So, what do you
Yes.
make of the signing of Adam Milne? Do you believe that he'll make it into the 11 ahead of Coulter-Nile? And apart from that, do you think any other spots which Mumbai Indians could have potentially filled but have not? But or do you think that the squad's pretty much set and there's no? But realistically, you couldn't have upgraded in any other way.
Basically, when the releases happened, I was just surprised that they released so many fast bowlers. I had known, I felt that they would always release Coulter Nile because at 8 crores he was just priced at way too high a purse, and that they had to release him. I was surprised that they let go of James Pattinson because I felt that it was, I mean, very surprising considering how good he was right through the season. Even Mitch McClenaghan, because I mean, such a valuable and loyal servant he's been for Mumbai. He's been so crucial for us in 2015, 17, and 19. As a player, I mean, but I think the auctions just made up for it. I mean, Adam Milne with his here's the thing. I think Milne's signing has a lot to do with the fact that there's Shane Bond, who's Mumbai's bowling coach, and Bond has worked extensively with Milne when he was a New Zealand bowling, when Bond was with the New Zealand team as a bowling coach in the Big Bash League as well. Bond coaches the Sydney Thunders. Milne was signed up by Sydney Thunders and he did really well for them. And he has that bullet sort of a pace. He bowls a 145, 150 Ks. He hits those that speed gun very very consistently, and he's very very exciting. I think his power play stats, I think in the last couple of seasons have read it. He's conceded 7.28 runs per over in the power play and 7.45 in the death overs in the last couple of seasons, and where he's played. And despite the fact that he's injury prone, I mean, he's been able to. Thankfully, he's recovered from his injuries, and he's back in the New Zealand T20 setup at least in the medium term. So that is a good sign. And actually, it is a good bit of business from Mumbai that they let go of Coulter Nile for was at 8. They got him back for 5 crores, and then just add 20 crores to that. They managed to get in Adam Milne. So I mean, great bit of business. It was from Mumbai, And I think Piyush Chawla was always going to come to Mumbai, because even in the 2020 auction, Mumbai had gone berserk for getting in Piyush Chawla. And I think it's a good, because a lot of people don't realize that Chawla is one of the highest wicket takers in IPL history. And again, I mean, despite all the jives that are there, that at times he's Dhoni favorite and all that. But jokes aside, he's won 2 World Cups for India. He's won an IPL for KKR as well, and has been a very consistent performer in the IPL for whichever team he's been a part of. So I think it's a lends experience to that spin lineup, which was desperately lacking in numbers. And they've added a few exciting talents like Marco Jansen, Yudhvir Charak, and yeah, I mean, not to mention there's Tendulkar Jr. as well. I mean, Arjun Tendulkar, one who hopes actually I mean, even if he doesn't match up to what his father did, I mean, he goes on to have a decent career in his own right, because I think it'll be too unfair. It's the pressure is a little too much on him, considering it's always the father-son, illustrious father and son scenario, and the trolls that he gets. But you would always hope for somebody like him to have a good career, regardless of whether he succeeds or matches up to what his dad did or not. But great signings. I mean, Mumbai have filled up whatever gaps they had to fill up. They
Exactly.
needed that one spinner, and they've got it in Piyush Chawla. So that gives them opens up a lot more possibilities for them.
Yeah, you specifically mentioned about Marco Jansen and Yudhvik Chakra. That's probably one of those typical Mumbai Indian signings. Whether they work out or not, those were specific Mumbai specific signings where they go and pick these unknown gems, and who knows, they
Yes,
may turn out to be the next Hardik Pandya, Krunal Pandya, or the Jasprit Bumrah. That's how you got the 3 biggest superstars. So in that
yes,
way, you have to always back the Mumbai Indians in terms of these small picks. And the other one that we mentioned, Chawla is a solid backup to have. I don't know whether he'll get too many games, but in terms of having a backup to Rahul Chahar, something you did not have last season, you have a
hmm,
very experienced player, if needed, can come and fill in and do a job for a couple of games here and there. So in that way, I think it's a very solid backup. And as you mentioned, in case Adam Milne doesn't start off the season well, or even if he has any of those injuries, you've got someone like Kutnan who's already been part of the setup last season. You can
yes.
always fall back to him, especially during the back end of last season. Kutnan actually was started to play a lot more than Pattinson, right? Especially
Yes.
when we got closer to the playoffs. So in that way, I think it's a very solid window for Mumbai Indians. It was pretty clear that they wanted Chris Morris. Chris Morris was definitely their first choice, but in terms
Yes.
of budget, it was not. It was very highly unlikely in terms of what they had and in terms of what other teams had. Morris was clearly
I,
their first choice because the fact that they had only 13 crores and they were willing to go up to, I think, 11 crores they went
they
for
no, they
Morris.
actually had 15. They had 15. They were ready to go to 13. And I was just
13.
telling what as when the auction was happening, I was watching it from on my way back from work, and I was thinking, Mumbai, are you going mad? Are you going mad? Don't.
I
I was just
agree with what they, if they had got Morris, I'm saying hypothetically, if they'd got Morris,
huh.
I think the other 7 teams might as well have not turned up. I'm telling you.
Exactly. I think it would have ended the auction right there, because
Exactly. So
Morris,
I,
Bumrah, and Bolt
I
would
I
have been
really
a
appreciate Mumbai for going out all out for Morris because Morris is that gun bowler who could potentially ensure that Mumbai win the third title. I mean, win 3 in a row. So in that way, I think Mumbai Indians have done a fantastic job overall in the auction because Morris was obviously really unlikely in terms of other teams having a lot of budget. So we'll be talking about the likely 11th. Obviously, Mumbai Indians are a very settled unit. We've already spoken about the fact that they've got all these wonderful players. So at the top, I mean, you have to say that Rohit and Quinton starts off at the top, right? Surya comes in
yes,
at 3, Ishan comes in at 4. I mean, top 7, there's not much debate as well. Hardik 5, Kyron 6, and Krunal 7. Obviously, the order changes as per the matchups and the game situation. So top 7 is pretty fixed, right? You've obviously got in Jimmy Nisham, but he's very unlikely to get a game. Let's be real about that.
yes,
So top
yes.
seven's that. The fast bowlers, Jasprit Bumrah obviously starts. There's no backup for Bumrah. That's probably one small issue you could say for Mumbai, unless someone like Yudhvir Charak turns out to be one of those gems for Mumbai Indians. Apart from
They
that, you've
do.
obviously got
They have
Temple.
Dhawal Kulkarni. They have Dhawal
Yeah,
Kulkarni over there.
they do, but he's not of the same class as
Yeah,
Jasprit
exactly.
Bumrah, obviously. So
Definitely.
yeah, and Trent Bolt obviously takes up the other spot. I'm not too sure whether he'll have as good a season as last season because I think certain things were in his favor. I'm not too sure whether he'll have as good a season last season, but in the presence of Jasprit Bumrah, you can ensure that other bowlers will definitely look better than they are actually. To be very
True.
honest, that's the factor of, and
True.
that's the effect of someone like having Bumrah in the team. So Bumrah, Bolt. The third pacer, who do you expect to begin? Rahul Chahar obviously will be the sole spinner at the start. If they play at the Chepauk, maybe you could see someone like Jayant Yadav or Piyush Chawla fitting in that case. Or if someone like a Delhi, I mean, as we've already seen Rohit do it, even in the final, for example, Jayant Yadav could fit in for a very specific opposition like the Delhi Capitals,
Yes.
filled in with left-handers ahead of Rahul Chahar. So in terms of the other spot, the second fast bowler spot, who do you expect to start? Whether it's going to be, who do you think it's going to be, Kultnile or Adam Mill? Who do you think gets first crack?
Here's the thing. I think both had very different skill sets. I mean, Coulter-Nile is somebody who bowls those hard lengths very well. He bowls in those he bowls those heavy balls and those cross seamers and all, and he's pretty competent at the death as well. And he adds good hitting, lower order hitting at number 8. Adam Milner adds a lot of firepower with his pace. I mean, he brings raw pace, and he at the top he adds a very fearsome dimension along. He'll add a very fearsome dimension alongside Trent Bolt. I mean,
Right, he's
Milner
probably a
is a
top tail
very
bowler. He's a top
exactly.
tail
He's a
bowler.
top tail bowler. He's a top tail bowler. So I think he'll be able to add that as well. So I mean, it's a toss up between. They will be tossing up between Coulter Nile and Adam Milner right through. But here's the thing. I think because Mumbai play 9 of their 14 games on on grounds which actually are very spin friendly. I mean, Chennai
Delhi,
and
Delhi,
Delhi.
Delhi.
So they've both those grounds have traditionally been very spin friendly. So you might have this situation that Mumbai might just look to play with a with just 3 overseas players and maybe bring in somebody like
Jayant Yadav.
Piyush Chawla or Jayant Yadav to
Offer
pair up with
service.
Rahul Chahar. And Krunal Pandya because Jayant Yadav will be that specific matchup card. I mean, so if they face an opposition like a Delhi which have a lot of left-handers, or if they actually even against Chennai, because I think what a lot of people forget is that in the 2019 first qualifier that Mumbai played against Chennai at the Chepauk
Jayant Yadav
Stadium,
came in.
Jayant Yadav was brought in place of Mitch McClenaghan, that too as a specific matchup against Suresh Raina to counter him, to use his weakness against off spin in the power play overs. And good thing was that Jayant, in fact, managed to snap him up. So I think there would be a chance that against the CSK, which have a few left-handers in their middle order, they might just look to bring in somebody like Jayant Yadav, because what a lot of people don't realize is economy rate in the IPL, despite the fact that he's not played a lot of games, is around 6.6, and he bowls a lot of his overs in the power play. I mean, he's a bit like Washington Sundar in that regard. So he adds a very good dimension in that sense. He allows Mumbai to be a lot more flexible with their planning.
And he's
He
probably a. I just want to break you there. He's probably a
Yes,
defensive bowler in terms of Mumbai.
exactly.
Obviously, you've got someone like Bolt, Bumrah, Rahul Chahar. All of them you can say are pretty attacking bowlers. Krunal obviously offers a defensive option, but you have to
Hmm.
question his defensive skills to an extent. And as you mentioned, the fact that Mumbai are playing 9 games in traditionally spin-friendly wickets, we're not too sure how spin-friendly it will be this time around with the home team not playing a factor as such. So we
Exactly.
have to see how the pitches play out. But as you mentioned, if the pitches are really spin-friendly, I agree with you in terms of Mumbai going in with the third spinner. And amongst Chawla and Jain, the fact that Rahul Chahar is a leg spinner and Krunal's obviously left arm spinner, it's more likely that Jain takes up the third spinner spot if they go in with three
Exactly.
spinners, right? So
Exactly, and or they might use a second left arm spinner. Somebody like Anukul Roy can slip in. He can
yeah,
give you some batting towards that 8, and he's in the domestic circuit, he's been in quite good form for Jharkhand. So I think that's also another option that they have. So they might just look to use Anukul Roy as well. I mean, through the course of the season, because what we have to remember is 2022 will be a big auction year, and Mumbai. Let's be very honest, they'll not be able to retain Krunal Pandya at all, because the RTM is not going to be available on a captain in player, because we know who their 3 retentions are going to be. So I think somebody like Anukul will become very useful in that regard for Mumbai if they start grooming up right now. They're already grooming him up to probably be the Krunal Pandya replacement. So it might not be a good bad shout to give him a few games this season to see if he's up to it or not.
yeah, I agree. That's probably something Mumbai Indians could have because they have the luxury of potentially qualifying within 10 or 11 games, and you could see someone like Anukul Roy and a couple of other youngsters, someone like Charak, as we mentioned, who could get an opportunity here and there. So obviously that's far down the line. Mumbai Indians, they're obviously chasing the third title in a row. I know it's very hard to pick in a team like Mumbai Indians a particular X Factor player, but if you had to pick one X Factor player, who could it potentially be? I mean, I'm tending towards someone who's probably not a very obvious pick like a Rohit or a Hardik or a Bumrah. So it's very hard. I know it's a team full of superstars.
It's a very hard thing, but I think what would certainly determine Mumbai's season is how their middle order duo of Surya Kumar Yadav and Ishan Kishan performed this season. If they're able
They've got a big
to
role to tackle spin.
exactly, because they've, since last season, yeah, their improvement against against hitting against spin bowling has been very very noticeable. I mean, I read a few reports on ESPN Cricket Info written by a few established journalists that Mumbai had roped in Praveen Amre as a assistant coach last year as a talent scout slash assistant coach, and he was explicitly asked to work alongside the likes of Surya Kumar Yadav, Ishan Kishan, and all in tackling spin bowling and helping them improve their offside play, because we know that Surya Kumar Yadav was predominantly a very leg side hitter against spin as well, and so was Ishan Kishan. So their offside play against spin had improved so much, had improved by leaps and bounds, and it made them a lot more all round. In that it gave them a lot, it rounded them off as players even better. So I think it will be very critical for them to replicate their season, their previous season, because especially considering the tracks that they'll be playing in Chennai and Delhi. So their role becomes very critical, and also it is about. I mean, they will require a lot of the experience that somebody like Karen Pollard offers. I mean, we all fail to overlook what a massive presence he is for Mumbai Indians since the last 12. He's in his 11th
Since
season with the Mumbai
2010.
Indians. Yes, in his 11th season with the Mumbai Indians, he's seen so much of T20 cricket around the world. He is a part of the Mumbai Indians furniture. I mean, if you think of it, if there's if you construct a Mount Rushmore of Mumbai Indians greats, I think Kyron Pollard immediately fits slots in over there. So I think it's that there are 3-4 of Surya Kumar Yadav and Ishan Kishan and Kyron Pollard who will have a big role to play this season, and especially they have to see how Trent Bolt actually shapes up this season, because if they if Trent Bolt starts to tail off a little bit, because they might not be averse to bringing in somebody like they might not be averse to trying out somebody like a Marco Jansen, who is coming with a burgeoning reputation in South Africa. This is a 6'6", 6'7" pace bowling all rounder. In fact, left arm pace bowling all rounder is somebody who is a very capable hitter down the order, and in fact made it to the Pakistan tour team of South Africa in their test team as a cover. So he's improving a lot as a player, I think. So they might, and Mumbai has always been that sort of a team that's taken punts on youngsters. So they might not be averse to using a Marco Jansen, especially if they feel Trent Bolt is starting to go off the boil, because they have always been always used that left arm pacer effect in their 11. So that aside, I think they'll be banking heavily on Surya Kumar Yadav, Ishan Kishan, and Kyron Pollard to have a big season for them.
Yeah, especially
And
because in generally, apart from the Wankhede or even last season where tracks were relatively batting friendly, especially in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and obviously Sharjah at the start of the season. So there you could easily make up towards the end. But in tracks like Chennai and Delhi, which get slower as the game progresses, you may not be able to make up. And Rohit and Quinton are probably not the quickest starters. Rohit takes his time at the top, and Quinton de Kock, in these conditions, we're not too sure whether he can get off to those flyers he does usually. He may be able to, but there are still a couple of question marks. So Surya and Ishan's role become very vital, because in the middle overs they may have to just get going straight away, and they've got the gears to do that. They've shown their qualities definitely. So they've got a big role to play, and of course Kyron Pollard's ability, and even Hardik Pandya along with him. There's no question about the fact that how big a role they play and how important both of them are to the Mumbai Indians setup. So it's fair to say the Mumbai Indians is very well rounded. There are a couple of things which there is with every other team, but with Mumbai Indians, there's just those couple of things. So that's probably what makes Mumbai Indians special, and that's probably why I'm going to ask you this question. 2019, 2020, the odd, the even year jinx was broken last season. This season, I don't know this season they could be the first team to do the hat trick. Chennai obviously have done the double before in terms of retaining the title. You did that last season. So can Mumbai Indians be the first team to win three in a row? As a Mumbai Indians fan, I know you'll be hopeful and you rightly so. I can't blame you for that. But realistically, and putting on your Mumbai Indians fan cap on yourself. So what are your thoughts? What are your uh, predictions rather than expectations for Mumbai Indians this season?
My heart tells me Mumbai will do a hat trick. Mind is telling me getting to the playoff would be good.
Fair enough. I think, I mean, they can do a hat trick. If any team can do a hat trick, it's the Mumbai Indians. From my perspective, they can. I, I think the law of average or something tells me that we're gonna have a different winner this time. I kind of hope for it because I don't want to see a team winning three in a row. It'll be kind of, I wouldn't say boring, but you know where I'm getting to, right? So
Yes.
in that way, I'd like to see a different winner this time. But I mean, if anyone can, it's Mumbai Indians. So in that way, it's clear that that's how good they are. And even as you mentioned about the mega auction, I'm pretty sure they've got plans for all of that. It's the best run franchise. That's the credit we can give
Yes.
to Mumbai Indians since 2013 or even 2011, because that's probably where the building blocks started for this particular team in terms
Yes.
of Karen Pollard, Rohit Sharma, the core of the team. I think the entire setup deserve a lot of credit. The scouting, the way they got in the likes of Hardik, Bumrah, Krunal, all of these guys. I mean, they deserve massive credit. They haven't got Bruma and Krunal through the mega auction for big bucks, have they? They've got them through their own scouting, their own system. So in that way, Mumbai Indians deserve a lot of credit. So with that, we've obviously coming to the end of the show. Thanks a lot to Abhinav joining us today for the first time on the Little Fella Sports podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed the show. So guys who are watching, please do like, share, subscribe to the channel. We are very close to 500 subscribers. So please subscribe to the channel. We'd love to reach 500 before the IPL starts. So that's probably one small goal we have in the next 7 or 8 days. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot to Abhinav for joining us. So thank you so much.
The pleasure. So thank you. It was my pleasure.